Welcome to Circle Podcast, brought to you by Circle Sanctuary, one of the oldest nature spirituality churches in the United States, connecting people of nature-centered paths around the world. Join us throughout the week for a variety of shows discussing various topics, celebrating the divine in all of its forms through nature worship, rituals, education, and building bridges of community. Welcome to Urban Unwitches, a podcast to educate, inform, and expand the pagan community. Please join our Discord channel, Urban Unwitches Podcast. Follow us on TikTok at Urban Unwitches, and listen to all our past podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. You can also join us on YouTube at Urban Unwitches. Now, back to the show.
I've also got some external lighting because everybody knows overhead lighting, especially backcast. We've seen enough RuPaul's to know that this is not right.
True facts.
True facts about
I'm fighting my arm today. Oh, that's because it's not tight. Well, that would help.
Oh, we can't have that, girl. We got to keep it tight. We got reps to protect. They know us on the street.
Fight with my microphone.
Also, has anybody ever told you that you have a 1,000-watt smile? Like when you smile, like it's like the sun is being reflected, and I'm a little jealous, I have to say. Like it really comes through. Like when we do live, your smile is just gonna sell us. I love it.
Aw, thanks.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
I will warn you, Kyler has had both coffee and Adderall this morning, so please feel free to use the beep beep button as often as you need.
I have had 2 Cokes. So.
Oh, the beverage. Okay, for a second I
Yes.
thought, it was a wild night at, Shadia, but okay.
No, nobody's here. It's just me. Tony has gone to New Orleans.
NOLA? Why he in New Orleans?
Well, he's been working on federal courthouses. And the federal system before Trump passed and gave all this money to the federal court systems to update all the federal court systems. So he's actually in charge of several in different counties and places. But it just so happens that the New Orleans one is the closest to being done. And so he was there. He gets to commission systems, which means he goes in after the system's put in and makes sure it works and does what he has said it should do. And then gives punch lists to the people that install. So he did that. And then he went back to be wined and dined by a vendor. And so he went to Antonio's.
Ooh,
which in New Orleans is evidently a place. Like it's a 1,300 person restaurant that's been there since the 1890s or some crap like that. And so it's French cuisine. So he got filet mignon and rice because he can't eat mashed potatoes because of the butter that places put in them. And then he had a shrimp remoulade and crab cakes. And then he gave in and ate some baked Alaska.
This story is making me very hungry.
I know.
Oh my God. Tony has tell him he's turned into one of those Instagram millennials who takes pictures of their food.
Oh, he took a picture of them lighting the baked Alaska on fire.
Oh,
like
Tony,
took
man.
video and sent it to me.
White American tourism at its best. I love it.
True.
So give me one thing. I have knobs, Dia. I have a mixer thing, and I want to turn the knob. So I need you to tell me what it sounds like.
Okay, let me send you a picture.
Okay.
Let me send you a picture of my knobs.
Ooh.
might help your knobs because Tony had to take down my mixer, and when he took it away, he said, "Take a picture of this
Hmm.
so you can put it back." And I went, "Oh, that's a good idea." And I didn't think I would use it, and then I did totally use it.
Also, I need the universe to light Kyler like this all the time.
I know, looks good,
Oh
right?
my God, it's like I actually have a complexion and not just alcoholism.
So I sent you a little picture. I don't know. Tell me if your mixer looks like this.
It's fairly basic, but it should. Let's see. Close
Well,
enough.
Tony,
Let's see where we've got our things. So that's the mic, main mix, USB. We're gonna zoom in. There we go. So you're ah low, high, and pan. Ooh, child, it's pan. Okay. I don't know what pan is. I'm gonna think that that's mid,
I think
maybe.
it
No.
is.
All right. So low is a little bit higher. So
Yep,
there's
that looks
that.
good.
Okay. And then high is a little higher above zero. And then mid is right at zero. How am I sounding?
It sounds a lot better.
Oh, good. Okay. So,
Believe it or not.
I,
You wouldn't think those little knobs make much difference, but they do.
yeah, I downloaded Audacity again. I'm gonna play around with it. I'm actually gonna record myself singing House of the Rising Sun. So I had an experience the other day, which as a musician, I have got to share with you. So have you heard
Okay.
of this movie Sinners?
No.
So it's a horror movie. I'm straight up,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you don't love horror movies.
Nope.
I'm gonna say two words, and it's gonna sound weird, but it was probably the best movie I've seen in a decade. Um, I walked
Wow.
out of there feeling every kind of way.
Mm.
It's a vampire movie, and these two words are singing vampires.
Oh.
It is set in 1932, and most of the movie takes place in a black juke joint, and the vampires are attracted to a singer who can evoke the spirits of all musicians throughout time. It follows a tradition from like the Ubuntu
Wow.
peoples and all of that. So as he's singing the blues in this juke joint, you have people from the 80s, rappers from the 90s, African musicians dancing in among the crowd as they're dancing and writhing on the dance floor and all this. It's got everything from I oh yeah, did you hear what he did in California, New Mexico?
No.
So he has expanded the boundaries of a New Mexico military base 170 miles along the Southern California border, making it effectively a military base so that he can circumvent Posse Comitatus. Because the US military cannot function on US soil, he's making large swaths of it a military base where they have domestic jurisdiction. So, and this isn't just for people crossing the border. He can now do this to any US citizen that's found to be trespassing on military property. So, this is going to blow up in his face massively, but I'm just thankful he's telegraphing the big dumb directions he's going in because after this presidency, there will be no more loopholes because he's finding them all. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
I even with the support he's got, he's not smart enough to make this work. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it'll take us 30 years to rebuild, but
Yep.
when we rebuild, we'll be stronger. And
Yep.
he will still be decaying in the well, he won't even be decaying in the ground because he's made out of McDonald's and that shit never rots. So
Yep. Bleh.
sorry about that. Didn't mean to get prudish.
Bleh. Okay.
Like, makes me
So,
want to bring my big book of really nasty shit that I shouldn't have and I know how to do, but I'll never do.
mm-hmm.
I have to lose the key to the box I keep it in because the
Mm-hmm.
temptation grows every day. So, moving
Mm-hmm.
on to craft
Moving
laws.
on. So, well, So I have a confession,
Oh, okay. Is it
and this
juicy?
is my confession. I don't know. It actually probably is juicy because it's about food. So you know how I said that my triglycerides were off the chart, and I was
Mm-hmm.
mad at my doctor because he told me to stop eating mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
So I decided I would just pay attention to what I'm putting in my mouth. And it turns out mashed potatoes are not the problem.
Um,
I could probably have mashed potatoes if I would stop eating all the other crap that I'm putting in my body. I mean, every time I was it just I was like, what do I like to eat? Oh, I like to eat meat and
mhm.
pasta. Evidently, that's what I like to eat. And that's my go-to if Tony's not around, because Tony can't eat pasta. So if Tony's not around, I'm eating pasta. I did it yesterday. I went to a sushi place and I ordered pad thai for dinner. And it wasn't until I'm eating the pad thai that I go, this is pasta. I'm eating pasta again.
Yeah. Mhm.
What is wrong with me? so,
You
so
like food.
I wrote my family practitioner and said, evidently I need to see a dietitian so that I can alter my view on food because I really am at a loss. Like, what do I eat? You know? And then that has, because I know it's coming, I have been just eating anything I want. I'm just like, oh my God, it's going away. It's all going away. You know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am not happy.
So,
It is,
so given the battle of the bulge that I have fought, these you're singing a song my heart knows well. The the urge to splurge because the restriction is coming is the reason my most recent 10 pounds came to live with me. I'm
mm-hmm,
trying to eject it. But yeah, no, I actually am working with a dietitian team through the lifestyle clinic here in Seattle. My
mm,
doctor put me in touch with him because I have a complex relationship with food. Like I love food, I love to
yep,
cook. More than
yep,
eating food, I love to make food because it's an act of love. It's one of my love languages.
sure.
I'm Southern, that's how I was raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I I have to stop over cooking because it's myself and my husband.
Yes.
And I make too much. I don't know how to make a
Yes.
reasonable amount for myself or someone else.
I
And
don't
like
either.
yeah, and I can't actually eat a whole lot in any one sitting. Like someone looks at me, I'm a stocky guy. There's a lot of Tyler,
Right,
but
but you
it's
eat more through the day because you've made
yeah,
more and you don't want it to go to waste. This is
yeah.
Southerners' fault. This is
Hmm.
being born in the South. People don't
Hmm.
understand this. When you are Southern,
Hmm.
you are not taught to feed just yourself ever. You were
Yep.
taught to feed at least a family of five, if not more, because you never
Hmm.
know when Jesus is going to come knocking on the door and need a supper
Uh-huh.
plate. I'm
Uh-huh.
serious. Like, this is a
Uh-huh. It's a thing.
real
Yep.
thing. And so then when you end up at home with just your husband,
Hmm.
what you don't stop
That's
cooking.
it.
Tony and I actually had a fight about this week. He was like, "What are you making?" I said, I'm making chicken a la king." He said, "No, I was making white bean chili." And he goes,
Mhm.
"Well, how much white bean chili are we going to have when you're done? Cuz I really don't want to eat it for the next 2 weeks." And so we had So we pulled out all the stuff I would normally put it in, and then Tony was like, "You can put in these 2 cans of beans and this 1 can of tomatoes. That's what
Hmm.
you can put in this chili and the chicken and the other stuff that I put in it." But you know, and if it's more chicken heavy because you bought too much chicken, fine, then let it be chicken heavy.
And for all of our listeners out there, a little aside about Tony, there's a reason he's not a peace ambassador because that man has wonderful, wonderful qualities, but delivery of crisp information is not one of those superpowers. A very linear thinking human being.
Yes.
He does not really know how to handle passionate people. Um,
No.
and to deliver this to a Southern woman in her kitchen is
Mm-hmm.
almost a plea for self-harm. Like it's
Yes, it really is.
you are inviting a conversation, and that word is in italics and quotes because you are asking for the footsteps of divorce. That's what that conversation
Yeah.
means when you
And I
limit
have
what a
had,
woman can do in her kitchen. Like,
and he knows this. This is not, it's
yeah.
not as if I have told him, honey, if you want to cook, cook.
Hmm.
That's fine. But don't come in here when I'm cooking and tell me how to cook, because that is not what you do in the South. You do not
Well,
tell a woman how to cook in her own kitchen. You don't tell anybody how to cook in their own kitchen. You leave
right.
it alone. And
Women in the
he's
South and 6'2" gay men, because
gay
Christopher and
man,
I
right?
have had a conversation. He came
About
upon me and offered suggestions while I had a hot spatula in my hand. And growth means exerting executive control and not thwacking him with the ladle, because I have grown as a person and I'm very proud of this. I am no longer my mother.
well, that has been my issue this week. What has been your issue over the past little time that we've been away?
So, excellent question. There's been some odds and ends and incidentals. It seems like the whole world is kind of primed right now for a certain amount of drama. Um, because I work in my day life as a salesperson in for one of America's larger automotive retailers. We've been dealing with tariff fear, and not to go political or anything with it, but people are afraid, and so it's driving just throngs of people through the door, which is great for sales. I'm not complaining about that, but one, I'm not from a corporate standpoint, I'm not allowed to talk about tariffs. And it would seem counterintuitive that I would want to calm people down because, they're buying from us, but we don't want people to be terrified. Like, prices on
Right,
used cars and most cars aren't going up immediately, but everybody's terrified about it. And it's
right.
difficult every day to see the uncertainty because people want to come in and they want to talk to you about it. And I'll see anywhere from 5 to 10 different people every day, and I build rapport with my customers. So it's like I'm emotionally in that space. So
Mm,
it's been a lot of work of intention when I get home to leave things at my door. Like, I've started bringing back
mm,
little rituals that I do to leave the outside my front door. And so, like, for me, I will actually take when I put my key in the lock and I turn it, that is a ritualized step for me.
mm-hmm,
I plant my feet and I ground and center and I turn the
mm,
key. And when I'm turning the key, I literally imagine myself almost stepping out a cloud of that energy of stress and everything. And I let the wind blow it away. And I just step out of it into the threshold like a vampire. It cannot cross my threshold without an invitation.
right.
And it's the days I know it's really bad are the days where I take my lockbox key that I use at work instead of my house key, because I
Mm,
have so many, I have such a habituation of grabbing this key that, but no, it's been that I've pulled a lot of overtime this week,
mm,
and I would love if that was just in a vacuum and it led to a fat paycheck, because everybody likes fat paycheck, but the seeing people struggle
mm-hmm,
has been a struggle because I'm not somebody who can set aside other people's discomfort easily. So
mm-hmm.
darn that
Well,
empathy.
one of the rituals that I wrote about in my book, Birthing Hereditary Witchcraft, which is no longer available in stores. You'll have to get it off a used book site. But was the family light. And what I did was I took a hurricane lamp that was a oil lamp,
Mhm.
and I put it with, I chose blue because that's just the color I associate with calm, and and we would put it on a table right by the front door. And when Sam and Tony and I all were home, so everybody had to come home, then we would gather around the light, light it, say, now we light the family light, may it ever burn so bright. But energetically, what I was doing was binding my family together, pulling out all the stress and grounding that out. And especially with an ADHD child, grounding out all the outside stimulation and all of that. And that was something that we did for years. And Sam would get all excited when he was younger. He would go, "Oh, Tony's home. Let's light the family light." So he really enjoyed it. So that is something that you can do to try to help bind a family together in these trying times, and take a moment of intention to kind of let all that energy throw out. Um, just an aside.
No,
Maybe that
I
helps
love that
you.
idea.
Yep.
It's so funny that you bring that up because recently Chris and I, we have an antique store down the road from us, and eventually, when I
Mm,
can lure you out to Seattle, you and I are going to go spend a day in this antique store.
mm,
Because one, I don't think I've ever come across anything that has actual like nasty schmutz, which an antique store, if you're a really sensitive person, can
mm,
sometimes be
mm-hmm,
a minefield. This
mm-hmm.
thing is almost the size of a football field and it's multiple stories. And the guy who runs it goes over. So, like in the UK and France, they are having population explosions. And so they don't have all these old like English manor houses and all that are no longer being kept in the family. They're being turned into bigger, more efficient housing. All that furniture, that old English, old French, turn of the 19th
Mm.
century furniture has to go somewhere. And he buys it up and he brings it over and he has a giant warehouse filled with armoires that have so much more than just Narnia in them. It's like I swear this this warehouse is like a nexus to other worlds. There are so many wardrobes in it, right? But like we got our side server there and it's like 18th century French. We paid less than 400 for it. Like I've become one of those gays. I have the French furniture. It's hardwood with hand-worked roses and brass fixtures because we have to be bougie. Um, it's probably the nicest piece of furniture I have hands down ever owned. But like
Right.
this place is amazing. Anyway, total tangent. We found a hurricane lamp that was hand blown glass. So Chihuly, who is this
Yeah.
art artist guy,
I know Chihuly.
Chihuly Glass Gardens are in Seattle, and we
Yes.
have like a huge thing here. So blown glass is a massive artisanal industry in Seattle. We have Mount St. Helens ash glass in a hurricane lamp
Wow.
we bought. So it's purple and blue and iridescent. And they got that by adding different ashes from the eruption of Mount St. Helens. And so now we have a hurricane lamp that we can do that with, which is a very long story to get us to, I want to do the family light thing. So
There you go.
you've now set the
That's
tone of
cool.
efficiency for today.
That's cool. But I will. Okay, so I do have a story. We're just going to be all off tangent today. I can tell this is going to be a
Two-parter
theme.
incoming, folks.
I had someone give me a beautiful choker that they had strung together. And I put it on my neck and immediately hear, "What are you doing, witch, with my necklace? How dare you wear my necklace?" And I was like, "Holy crap." And I pulled it off my necklace and threw it down. And I was like, "Where did you get the beads? Where'd you get the beads?" And she said, "I was in this cool antique store." I was like, "Oh, why didn't you cleanse it?"
Yeah, it's a thing.
That is a real thing, y'all.
Yeah,
Real thing. If you were
if you
psychometric, ugh.
oh
So,
yeah, like the thing is for everybody out there who's maybe just starting on this path, beginner 101 stuff that you should be aware of. Everybody has a measure of talent. Nobody's talent is ever exactly the same. We're all like a
right.
fingerprint. Some people are very touch oriented. I tend to be very touch and very visually oriented. I will actually see things when my brain chatter goes away, which, for somebody with
Mhm.
ADHD is not always, but when I'm on, I'm usually visual. But as a massage therapist, my touch sense has increased drastically.
Mm,
If you buy someone a gift from an antique store, we love antique store gifts, most which is like really cool things. No matter
mhm,
how they identify, it's cool, it's a little gothic, we love it.
mhm.
Make sure it's cleansed because schmutz from 50 years ago may still be sticking around and we may not be able to digest it very well. So,
Let
you
me
know,
tell you that, yeah, that ghost was mad.
mm,
Mad. I
mm.
was like, okay, she really liked that necklace. Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about the craft laws. So I wanted just a couple of notes of housekeeping. And the first is that we have a Discord channel and you can look us up at Urban Unwitches Podcast. Now, why would I tell you this? Because we're going to talk about 3 documents that I have already placed on our Discord channel. So if you go there, you can actually look at these 3 documents and read along. You can also look up these documents online right now. One of them is on sacredtext.com, and it's the laws from Lady Sheba that we're going to be talking about. The other is The New Book of the Law by Lady Galadriel. I don't know exactly where you can get that. It's out there though. It may even be on Sacred Text. I'm not sure. But check that out, The New Book of the Law. The last one we're going to talk about is a personal um, I have ownership of. It's called The Code. This is my first degree requirement that you have to rewrite the old craft laws, which we're going to talk a little bit about. And so the code is my reworking of it. So you're not going to find that anywhere but the Discord channel. If you want to go look at it, you have to go there to look at that. So that's called The Code. And then the other thing is, if you're watching this, you're going to see me cutting my eyes left, right, and center. I have three, I have three screens out, and I need all three of them to see all these documents at one time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have Kyler's actually off to my right today because of all this information that we're going to be dealing with and flipping back and forth between. So don't be weirded out if I'm not looking directly at the camera, or if Kyler starts talking and I look out to the right, because Kyler is to my right today. And that's my little housekeeping notes. Again, Discord, Urban on Witches Podcast is the name of the Discord channel. Please go there and join us. And I've already set up a channel. It's called Reference Material, and that's where you'll find these three documents: The Laws from Lady Sheba, The New Book of the Law by Lady Galadriel, and The Code by myself, by Lydia Crabtree. So the craft laws, what the heck are those, Kyler?
Ooh, the craft laws. They are the best way to describe the craft laws. So they are a bit of history, a bit of a
Yep.
problem, a
Mm-hmm.
bit necessary in some forms and places. The
Mm-hmm.
craft laws, like most things in the craft, are a mini myriad, splendored bit of growth that happened on snapshots out of history and then responses to snapshots out of history. And all in all, it is probably necessary for anybody who is going to be in a group, a coven, a circle, however you want to structure it, to have rules. And those rules should probably be adaptable to whatever situation you're in. But these are the laws. And the word laws is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. So
Yep.
yeah. This
Well,
is
and
a list
mhm.
of things that you should and should not do. These are the ordained laws of old as passed down by the Wicca.
Right. And the craft laws, one of the things that I was thinking about before we did this, because I tend to kind of go over thoughts in my mind before we do a podcast, and the was a series of questions, and these are the questions. The first one is Wicca originally patriarchal? Is Wicca originally homophobic? Is Wicca originally, how do we say, colonialism? This is the best way I can think of it. Colonialism. Um, and the answer to all three of those is yes. And the way we can prove that is through this particular uh, group of laws that were originally written by Gardner and Valiente in cahoots. But what we're going to demonstrate though is that it was very homophobic. It was even Lady Galadriel, out of all due respect to Lady Galadriel, she has some ableist information in hers, um, but just very homophobic, and those are really and patriarchal. Just really, you can see that when you read these. Most
Mhm.
people, when I do this class, I read the laws and they're like, "Yo, what? What did you just say?" So hang on, because you're gonna hear some things today that you're gonna
Mhm.
go, Dia and Kyler say, "What?" That's what you're going to say.
Mhm.
Um, so the first thing is, I would love for you, Kyler, to explain the Gardner Valiente connection about the laws and how that connection created the laws.
Ooh, this is one of my favorite little historical little moments in history. So I love gossip as a Southerner. And this is juicy tea. Even almost 100 years later, it's juicy tea. So Wicca was created. It really started getting formed in like the 20s and 30s, and started crystallizing over the next couple of decades. And it was started by a man named Gerald Gardner, who was a British civil servant. So most people know a little bit about Gardner. Um, his background is where a lot of what we take as just the way Wicca is was what he decided to put in, much of which he took from like the Freemasons and Order of the Golden Dawn and all that. Well, in his earlier days, he eventually found a woman named Doreen Valiente. So if he's the father of Wicca, Valiente is very arguably its mother. Doreen
Mhm.
Valiente, wonderful human being. Of the pair, she has my vote for Princess of the Universe. I adore Doreen Valiente. She is a goal as a person for me.
Mhm.
Um, she is also responsible for the vast majority of the most beautiful liturgy that Wicca
Mhm.
has. She
Mhm.
she is credited with writing the Wiccan Reed, the Witch's Rune. I mean, she is a
The Charge of the
beautiful liturgist.
Goddess.
Yeah, Charge of the Goddess. I mean, she was phenomenal with pen and paper and could really encapsulate the desire for the craft that existed in
Mhm.
that time. Well,
Mhm.
Gardner was a traditional British guy, and Valiente, while humble, was not a very traditional British woman in the most important respects. She was not demure in the way of other women. She very clearly would not tolerate things past a certain point, and she would not sleep with Gerald Gardner. So in original Wicca, okay, and there's been a lot of change in the last century with Wicca, but
Right.
in those original days, there was a thing called the Great Marriage, and it involved the ritual act of the Great Marriage, which was a physical union between priest and priestess, or at the very least, physical affections. Well, Doreen Valiente
Right.
was a monogamous, happily married woman who was deeply in love with her husband, and she would not play that game. She also would not bend knee to Gardner, who would say that the priestess is the law and the law unto itself. He still liked to have final control. And so the laws as we see them today, there are whole sections of it that are very much a political push and pull, a tug of war between these two people until Doreen finally said, this is not important enough to get my blood pressure up. I'm going to take a step out, because she was done. And anybody who's ever read her writings, there are even, I think, some like radio broadcasts that have survived over the years. She is she's like that great British nanny. When she
Mhm.
speaks, it's done. And I mean, that's the voice of the magus right there. Um, so that's where some of that comes from. And you'll see it. Like once you are aware of that cultural context, you will very much see these are not ancient laws. This is very much a response to a struggle that was happening in that very contemporary time.
Right. And you can learn more about Doreen Valiente at doreenvaliente.org.
Mhm.
Of course, their her legacy still lives and is still being carried on by other people. And we do credit her with some of this writing, although I feel like Gardner kind of had the last say, so to speak, because Doreen left and actually went on to join another group, which we're not talking about today. But when we talk about non-Wiccan traditions, we'll definitely be
Mhm.
bringing them up. Now, I want to talk about Lady Sheba. I'm trying to give you an idea of who these players are. So, Lady Sheba, um, on sacredtext.com, you can see the Book of the Law. And she was actually Jessica Wicker Bell. She died in 2002. And she, from the research I was able to do, got her information from Michael Howard, who wrote Modern Wicca, which is a book back in the day. And his teacher, Michael Howard's teacher, gave Sheba these Book of the Laws because they were part of the Book of Shadows that she wrote. And later she would put out the Grimoire of Lady Sheba. Isn't that what the book is called? I'm pretty sure it's called the Grimoire of
I
Lady
I'm
Sheba.
pretty sure, yeah, that's where
Yeah,
all the
and so the laws end up coming out there. And Howard is a cross between paganism and Satanism. So it wasn't really Wicca. It was, but it had Wicca overtones and Wicca beginnings, but they were kind of something in the middle.
hmm
Now, let me talk about Lady Gladriel for a minute. She is a Southern woman who is revered here in Georgia, and for no small reason. She is the co-founder of the Grove of the Unicorn, which was founded in 1980 with her husband, Lord Athanar. And they were Jody and John Monig. And her teacher was Lady Rhea of Atlanta, and Lady Rhea was Lebanese. And she practiced a form of the craft that was influenced by Middle Eastern philosophy, New Ageism, and a lighter form of Gardnerianism. So it's important that they claimed it didn't all come from Gardner, but they celebrated the 8 Sabbats and the 13 Esbats. Especially important to note the 8 Sabbats because we know those came from Gardner. So
hmm
Gardner had some influence into what Lady Rhea was actually doing. And they had these craft laws. Now, I happen to have been privileged to see another version of these laws, and they are very similar to Lady Sheba's. Very, very, very similar. And I knew that the one that I was looking at, I was told was a copy of a copy from Gardner. So I have to say Lady Sheba's laws, Lady Galadriel's laws, wherever they came from, came by Gardner by some way, right? And what she does is she takes the Book of the Law, the old laws for the old religion, the Great Book of the Law, and the Dragon Law. These are what she says in her own notes to put together the new Book of the Law. Now, the Book of the Law is the Grove of the Unicorn's copy of the craft laws. The old law for the old religions is actually the Mosaic Law or laws of Moses found in the Old Testament. The Great Book of the Law is the Thelma text from the OTO, which is Aleister Crowley's group. And the Dragon Law has to do with Icelandic information, and/or it is my teacher's copy of a copy of a copy of a copy that he got from somewhere and that I have a copy of. So I'm not sure because Lord Manawithan ran the Coven of the Red Dragon, which is why I put those two together. So I'm not sure which one she means because for me, it reads two different ways. But it could be the Icelandic Lamina book. Lamina book? Lamina book. I don't know. I can't speak foreign. I'm
Venomable.
sorry.
I'm not
Lamina
pronouncing it
book.
right correctly either.
Yeah, I'm sure we're not pronouncing it right.
Every time I try to
People,
speak Icelandic, it sounds German, and that's
yeah,
not what you want to do.
no, I should have asked Brooke. Brooke would have known. So that is who Lady Galadriel was and where her laws came from. And then, of course, I've already said that the code was written by myself, and I think that it had originally had a timing of interestingly around 2001, maybe a little earlier. No, probably around 2001, 2002. I was taught by Lord Manawithan. He gave me a version of the craft laws. They were on mimeograph paper. So let me school you people who don't know what mimeograph is. It was a round printer that printed only in blue ink. And it
Mhm.
smelled funny. And you had to turn it this way
Yep.
to make copies. And he had a mimeographed copy of the, he called them the craft laws. And the last page was missing like 3 laws were just cut off because they didn't get on the mimeograph right. So that's where my laws came from. Now I'm not sharing those laws because I am not sure where they originated from and I don't want to out somebody's special information. So I'm not releasing those. I have them, I'm not releasing them. But my code actually comes from that copy of information, although it is very close to Lady Sheba's, very, very close to Lady Sheba's. So so I was actually comparing and contrasting all of these for this podcast, and I was quite taken aback by how close they were, which just says that people were very careful back in the day, when they copied stuff. They were really careful
Mhm.
about that. So that's where mine
Good
came.
advice.
And I have to tell you, my version is the sarcastic version of the code, because when I read the old craft laws, I was like, y'all got to be kidding me right now. Like, I'm not playing with this. This is not funny. So you'll often, if you hear mine, you'll know it because it's the one that goes, really? We're going to talk about this like this? Okay. So that's how it is. Oh, whew, this is a heavy topic. But now
It's so
we've
much
explained
fun.
who Lady Shiva is, Lady Galadriel. And Lady Galadriel, I can't impress upon you. Think about Lori Cabot. Is that her name? Lori Cabot? Yeah.
Cabot or Cabot? I'm never sure how to pronounce it.
But she's from Salem.
Yeah,
And
yeah, very
and
famous.
and very famous. Lady Galadriel out, like we would say in the South, Lori Cabot, who's that? We got Lady Galadriel. Like she was the premier priestess in the South for years and years and years and years and years. And many touched many people's lives. She was a good friend
Mhm.
of Lord Manawithan's that I am aware of. So I just can't understate how important she is and why I would even bother putting her in this group, because she does have a legacy that is worthy of being remembered. And she did attempt, she was the only one who attempted to take the old craft laws and do something different with them. But again, all of these people are products of the times that they were born in. Don't ever forget that, right? When we go through this, don't think, well, God, Gerald Gardner was a patriarchal person. Well, yeah, he was, in the 1930s, 40s. He didn't even get to the 1950s, right? So you just have to remember the time and age that these people lived and how these codes and laws looked at then. Um, the first thing that it does, and all of Wicca, we've talked about this before. We have to establish the legitimacy of these set of laws. Can you hear my lawn guy?
I cannot. I was worried if people could perhaps hear the construction that's happening across the street.
Okay,
Um,
good. So
these
no,
things only happen on days when we are recording a podcast. Just so you know, I live in an incredibly quiet neighborhood, but apparently there is a sign on my front door that says, "Please be quiet, podcasts in progress." And that's when the heavy equipment comes out.
yep, yep, that's exactly right. I sat down to do this and the lawn guy started. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But good. If you can't hear it, then I'll ignore it myself. So the first thing that all of Wicca always has attempted to do is establish legitimacy, and each of the three of these try to establish legitimacy in a different way. Kyler, do you want to talk about how Lady Sheba establishes legitimacy?
So, if you look in the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
the introduction to this,
Mm-hmm.
she basically hands it down. She is describing that I will read to you from Lady Sheba's Book
Mm-hmm.
of the Law. In the magic circle, the words, commands, and every wish of the high priestess are law. She is the earthly living representative of our gracious goddess. She must be obeyed and respected in all things. She is our lady, and above all others, a queen in the highest sense of the word. All female covenanters must curtsy whenever they come before her and say, "Blessed be." All male covenanters must bend the knee and give her a kiss upon the right cheek and say, "Blessed be."
Blessed be.
Blessed be. And then, of course, she has 2.5 lines for the priest.
Right.
Uh, he is the earthly living representative of the great horned god, and in the magic circle he commandeth, he doesn't commands, he commandeth the respect due to one who is a magus, a lord counselor and father.
Right. And
So this
then,
is very on
yeah,
high. This divine power made manifest here.
right. Divine power made manifest. And then she just basically says the laws were made and ordained of old, and the law was made for Wicca to advise and help their troubles.
Mhm.
Lady Galadriel gives a little more shape and form, and I'll read to you from her legitimacy. It says, the laws were created to give our lives form and order, that all might be balanced through all of the planes. In truth, there are two sets of laws which govern us. One sets forth the ways of the Wiccan, and the other the ways of the universe. Both are important. Both should be observed with respect and treated with honor. The laws were shaped and molded to teach us, to advise us, and to counsel us in our time of mortal life earth. So she expanded that a little bit. And I basically said the code was created with a mind to honor those who've come before. It's not diluted wisdom because it's a compilation of the old. Ancient wisdom is known by those who wish to know it. And the code is written to give commonality to those who may have a dispute and question tradition to tradition. It's not a law, which is why mine is not called a law. Mine is called a code. We must each govern ourselves. Ultimately, the threefold law cares for those who do not. So mine more or less says the legitimacy is that codes are good things to have, right? It's
Mhm.
not
Yep.
it's not divine power, it's just common sense. So
Right. And if you take a look at kind of where these come from in terms of what makes something legitimate, you got to remember that Gardner was a very proud, very patriotic citizen of the British Empire. He was alive during Victorian times. The kings and queens will often rule by a mandate of heaven. So it is literally the very idea that whoever's in charge is ordained by on high or the spirits or the gods or however. This is not a foreign concept. Even if you haven't put conscious thought to it, it's there. It's like a river running underneath everything. So the older form of this is definitely reflective of that. Like she is the voice in every circle. She is the pope of that place. And yeah, so it's legitimacy is a powerful statement for people who have never felt legitimate.
right. And I also would say it's interesting, just bear in mind that at this point in the craft laws, she is the power. Just bear
Mhm.
that in mind for later, because we're going to talk about where power comes from in just a minute. But before we talk about that, the next section, and what I did was I went through these laws and I gathered them together based on what they were saying. Because most of the time, these laws, there'll be a section that is talking about one thing, maybe ritual, and then there's going to be a section about where power comes from, and then establishing and running new covens. And then you'll go through some more, and then it'll be establishing and running covens again. So what I did was I kind of compulated them together so that I could better see the overall pictures that we're looking at. But the
Mhm.
purpose and form of Wicca and ritual, but all of us say that the reason for that is to honor the gods and worship the gods. That's the purpose and form ultimately of Wicca. But it is Shiva's version that's a little disconcerting. And I shall read, this is law 4. Well, I'll start at law 3. The Wicca should give due worship to the gods and obey their will, which they ordain, for it was made for the good of the Wicca. As the worship of the Wicca is good for the gods love the brethren of the Wicca. So we are a chosen group. And then it
Mhm.
says, as a man loveth a woman by mastering her, so the Wicca should love the gods by mastering them. I have all kinds of problems with these two sentences.
No me gusta.
I have problems with these sentences. I have so many problems with these sentences. First of all, it's a very patriarchal thing to say. And that is not to kink shame. If this is something you're into because it's your kink, more power to you. But I don't think most women who are in the goddess worshiping sphere today would say that a man loves her if he masters her. I think that would
Yeah.
not go well. I don't think Starhawk would like that. I'm just saying.
I feel she would have very, very real issues with that, having
Yeah,
read literally anything she's ever written. Yeah.
right. So that's a problem. And You would hope that Galadriel, being a newer, more relatively contemporary artist, author, would have said something different, but she really doesn't. She basically says the same thing in a little
Mhm.
nicer way. I, however, once again, will be the voice of bizarre ritual. And what I say is just like a musician will master their music, so witches should love the gods by permitting them to deliver their song through them, which is a totally different way of looking at the gods. In
Mhm.
one, and you have to remember it for Sheba and even for Galadriel, we the term the god in me salutes the god in you, the goddess in you salutes the goddess in you. um, there is a sense that divinity is part of us, and
Mhm.
so therefore if we're mastering the gods, then we are also mastering ourselves. There's a little bit of that going on, I think, in the thought process here. But I also think that they, having dealt with Richard Sells for as long as I did, one of the things that was clear to me is that he believed you could master the gods. Now, he kept getting turned down by this through various ways through his life, but he never caught the clue. But I would watch him do things and then get smacked for it and go,
Mhm.
I don't think you can master the gods. I just, I think you got it backwards. And so that's why I wrote what I wrote, because I feel like the gods for me live outside of myself. And so I am plugging into them and they are working through me. And I think, unfortunately, this is also a very Christian view. Don't you think?
Yes. There are, so I'm hoping that this statement does not come across as controversial as it might. Most of us find our way to the craft. Now there are now generational pagans whose mothers and grandmothers, the movement reached the US in the 60s. So we now have several generations of family that have, passed down and they do their own way of thinking and all that. Original Wicca had some very strong Abrahamic overtones. And that's because of where Gardner himself came from. And a lot of folks who find their way to the craft who don't come from those generational, those hereditary and inherited traditions, they come into it usually having been burned by Abrahamic traditions, by Abrahamic faith. And nothing leaves a subtle stain like trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring it in, and you can see this here. These are rules written at a very patriarchal time, a very regimented, very socially caste oriented time, and that flavor is all throughout. So definitely agree.
Yeah. And I think my attempt is to take it away from that a little bit and attempt to put it in a little less gender relevant way, that Galadriel and Sheba kind of keep it into.
Mhm.
Um, the thing I want to talk about that I'm eager to get to is what I called where the power comes from, resides, and how power is checked in a coven. And I spelled power wrong. Power is checked in a coven. And these are really important because it gives a very good view of the undertone of the laws. So, um, you want to read Sheba or do you want to read Galadriel?
Oh, let's see. Ooh, ooh. Um, let's do Sheba. I just
Okay.
I'm feeling like I want to be the older, more crusty, traditional approach today.
Okay.
Um, so this is the 11th law of Sheba. And the high priestess shall rule her coven as the representative of the goddess, and the high priest shall support her as the representative of the god. And the high priestess shall choose whom she will, if he have sufficient rank to be her high priest. So that's 11 through 13. And number 14, For as the god himself kissed her feet in the fivefold salute, laying his power at the feet of the goddess, because of her youth and beauty, her sweetness and kindness, her wisdom and her justice, her humility and gentleness and generosity. I have so many feelings, many, many feelings. So he
Oh,
resigned all his power to her. But the high
right,
priestess should ever mind that all power comes from him. All power comes from him with a capital H. It is
right,
only lent to be used wisely and justly. And the greatest virtue of the high priestess be that she recognizes that youth is necessary to the representative of the goddess. So she will gracefully retire in favor of a younger woman, should the coven so decide in council. For the true high priestess realizes that gracefully surrendering the pride of place is one of the greatest virtues, and that thereby will she return to that pride of place in another life with greater power and beauty. Oh my goodness. As
right.
George Takei would say, oh my.
Oh my.
That
Yeah.
that's problematic. That's what that is.
Well,
We had a whole movement
right.
about that.
Right. And thinking that, the first thought that should come to your head is that what we started out with saying is that the high priestess is the be all end all. And
Mm-hmm.
here we have carefully crafted a long statement about how not only is she not the be all end all, she is empowered by the God, and
Mm-hmm.
how she has to be young and nubile because Gardner was a dirty old man. I'm sorry. Just like let's call it what it is. He wanted hot young women to sleep with him. And so this was his way of making sure that that would happen. And it's disconcerting to me that Galadriel doesn't come out. She ignores this largely. What she writes about where the power is and where it comes from is much more diplomatic. And she doesn't ever say that it comes from him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it it's really about just making sure that teachers have power, right? So a lot of what she writes is your teachers have the power, they're the servant of the gods, they plant the seeds. It's their duty to tend the seeds that are planted, their duty to make the final harvest. So she's just making sure that the priest and the priestess of a coven have all the power. And she decidedly ignores this part of the craft laws where we clearly see the patriarchy at running amok.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But I mean, this
it's
is also, and not to cut you off, Dave, this is a
yeah,
proud Southern tradition of ignoring the patriarchy in the room.
it's
So,
true.
like, I come from a family of incredibly powerful women. My aunts were, you remember Dixie Carter from Designing Women?
Oh, absolutely. Who doesn't?
So there was a
That
scene
was the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
in Georgia.
Sorry, you have to look that up if you don't know.
And that, Marjorie, is the night
The lights.
with a flaming baton and everything. I
Yep.
had,
Anyway,
she had some of the best monologues in history.
yes.
When I go expecto patronum, Dixie Carter comes out of the wand. Like it's just she's my power animal. Um, but this exactly brings me back to a conversation that I had with my aunt, who was my Sunday school teacher. She is a devout Southern Baptist. I was raised in that church tradition. The church, the Southern Baptist Church, is founded very much on the teachings of Paul. And Paul was very much of the mindset that women should be in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. That is the
Hmm.
tradition that is taught in the Southern Baptist Conference.
Hmm.
Any man, and this is for the entire universe to hear, I say this with great confidence, any man who feels like he should march his way up to my Aunt Camille and inform her that she should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, please do so and give me enough time to pop my popcorn because
Hmm.
I want to see that show. But in explaining to me why she had issues with Paul and the writings of Paul and how it denigrates women and takes their power and really kind of belittles their contribution to everything, she still was not a leader. She had to be a behind the scenes leader. This woman was incredibly well respected in our community. When the superintendent of schools, because she was a school teacher, left multiple times, she was tapped to be the superintendent for the county as an interim. Very capable, very competent human being, but always had to hide her light to the point where, even though she was one of the smartest people I ever met, the dissonance of why she had to hide it never came to the surface. It was so baked into the pudding. So, like
Hmm.
Galadriel ignoring it, that is a survival mechanism in the South.
Mm,
And
that's a good point.
only in the last 20 to 30 years have women really exerted, no, I don't have to stand behind my husband. He can stand behind me because I'm going to balance the books anyway. Like, let him bring up the rear. Like, in when Galadriel was founding,
Yeah,
it's a
in the
different world.
80s.
Yeah, like
Yep,
a lot has
totally
changed
different world.
very quickly in our world.
That's a really good point. One, if you go to the code, I actually call it out directly, and I
Hmm.
say, for the priest and priestess are equally endowed by the one, knowing that the world requires both to bring balance and harmony to the world and the coven. They acknowledge the one for the gifts equally given. High priests and high priestesses should never ever mind that the ultimate power is with the one through everyone, and they are only the example for responsibility of that power. So, couple of things here about my particular view on this. First of all, I am the diamond, as I've learned this week, omniist kind of view of divinity. So I believe that divinity is a diamond, and as the light shines through that diamond, you can see Mary Magdalene in one sliver of that reflected light. And if I shift, I can see the Morgan. And if I shift again, I can see Sheba. And if I shift again, I can see, the ancestors. So for me, it's all one universal power. That's the first thing you should know about me, just in general. That's how I view the gods in general. I tend to be a true polytheist um, when it comes to that. Now, the second thing is that I was raised by my grandmother to be a seer, to be someone who could commune with the dead and know things before they happened. And one of the things that she ingrained in me from a very young age was that all gifts come from the divine. They were not nothing that you can do, nothing extraordinary that happens to you is because of something in you personally. It is driven and battery fed by the divine. And so that is why mine kind of reflects that viewpoint. I'm interested to know, Kyler, what
Mm.
you would say, because you have a little different view.
So there's a actually less need for a unifying theory than I think that would imply. So I actually largely agree with you. So I'm a child of the West. I am a built-in born skeptic just because that's growing up, I love science. I love science fiction. I loved the creativity of where science could take us. And so the terms, the concepts that are kind of baked into my core programming are ones of physics and science, which is why I don't generally use the term energy. I think that's a different path. And they are both ways of trying to understand the universe. So I ask my new students to explain the universe to me in
Mm,
whatever terms they do and they use, and it inevitably stumps them because it's a huge question, right? So if there was nothing when the universe was created, and we know that energy is neither created nor destroyed, then God of a million names and faces, Christian God, doesn't matter, God comes into this void abyss and creates the universe. If there's nothing there, then the universe is literally created of God. Like all that is
mm-hmm,
God. All energy, all matter, all potential
mm-hmm,
is God. Now, that is something our little brains cannot, I mean, in the broadest symbols can we understand. But once you actually get into it, oh, that'll just fry the gourd, right? So I describe myself as a drop of God in a sea of God.
Mm,
And the word God here has absolutely no religious affiliation whatsoever.
mhm,
Um, you can use the term little g gods and spirits and greater spirits and all that interchangeably in my world because it's all just colors that don't have meaning until compared to another color. That's how art works. That's how painting works.
mhm,
Um, so I agree wholeheartedly with you. I believe that all the gods, all the spirits, they are all just threads in a tapestry, just
mhm,
as we are. We are a tapestry of spirits and experiences and all of that, a universe constantly reordering and redefining and growing itself. So that is one of the reasons why very strict hierarchical systems and laws like this have never actually made a whole lot of sense to me
mhm,
because from one generation to the next there are some truths that carry on but we are constantly redefining and reinventing ourselves. So
mhm.
long-winded way of saying I agree with you. I think we're actually on the same page with that one.
Well, and the other thing that I would say is you can't understate the um, uh, Scott Cunningham's The Book of the
Mhm.
Solitary Practitioner. And one of the things that Scott Cunningham says in the Book of the Solitary Practitioner is that the one is the unifying source for maleness and femaleness. He's very clear about
Mhm.
this, even though he was a gay man. He is very clear that both negative and positive come from divinity, and that's the one. And that is part of what was influencing me back in 2001 when I wrote these originally. Um, that view of divinity in a very narrow scope. And I say that because later we'll talk about um, the impact of homophobic views
Mhm.
in these laws. And I would say, even though my laws try to change and correct some of that, even I at this time didn't really understand. And I don't think a lot of us understood the idea of gender as fluid, as gender as
Mhm.
neither or, gender as a scale instead of a hard you are or you aren't kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I was blessed to be around people in Chattanooga that attempted to open my eyes to this idea. I actually was invited to a ritual, and when I got there, it was two gay men, and one of them was dressed as a woman, and he was the priestess.
Mhm.
And as I was leaving, I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, "Hey, what did you think?" And I said, it's different, but I understand it. Like, I understood what you were getting at, that anybody could be female and anybody could be male, and that that it's energy. It's not this construct that society has put upon us. And he goes,
Mhm.
I just know that I'm years ahead of my curve. And he really was, because he was
Mhm.
attempting to teach something that we had not really ever discussed before in his own way. So yeah, I'll never forget him saying that. I'm firmly, he was firmly ahead of his time when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about where the power comes from. We've talked a little bit about um, the kind of structure that is done. And I'm going to cut us off here because we knew this was going to be a two-parter. And
Mhm.
so we're coming toward the end of the first hour. And so I'm going to cut us off here because the next part we're going to talk about next time, we're going to start with the burning times. And that is a can of worms that's going to take more than 5 minutes
Oh,
to
so many
discuss.
worms.
So many worms.
Oh,
and
to deplete
and
the
and you
oceans
see it.
using that many worms as bait.
Yes. And interestingly, the burning times is one of the things that I noticed kind of was pervasive even in the code. That
Mm.
even as far late as the 2001, 2002, I didn't understand about the burning times. So it's worth having a conversation about. So we're going to cut it off here. So um, the uh, the resiliency corner I have for you today is to put down, if you could write one code to live by, one sentence, what would that code be? And meditate on that and think about how that practically applies to your life so that you have a way to deal with difficult situations because you've considered difficult situations in light of how you want to respond. And this takes the power from a unconscious response to a deliberate response. And that calms down a lot of those fight or flight reflexes that can come when things are very difficult. That would be my resiliency corner. Do you have anything today for that?
I do. And this one's going to be a little different than one that I normally would do. So I am currently working on some personal work and get kind of diving back into my pool of shadow work because we always have to do that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
never-ending cycle. Um, but you know, what's happening in the world has brought up a lot for me lately. So I've been revisiting like old training and things like that. And I I do love me some ritual, and I love structures and playing around with them. So for those who've practiced for a bit or even just begun to read, one of the things that you'll eventually come across is the idea that every season has an elemental association. So for whatever that means for you, whether you have the spring is air and summer is fire and autumn is water and winter is earth, however you choose to assign all this, um, I pick whatever element I'm in, and every week I will choose a focus. And how I choose that focus can be done through divination, whatever. You can maybe make a chart and roll a d20. It's completely up to you guys. But pick a focus to work on. And every day when I wake up, I do an affirmation. So say I'm in the time of water, I will pour a glass of cool, clean, filtered water, and if I'm working on energy, or not energy, if I'm working on anger, creature of water, help cool the fire of my temper. Let that anger wash through me. Let no enemy have purchase on me or concept make my heart ill at ease. However you want to do it, and let yourself live within the psychology of that element. Make friends and allies with the elements. And I've been doing that for like the last week, and it's really helped a lot. It's been very re-energizing and very calming in a way that I haven't experienced in a while. So I wanted to share that bit of resiliency with our listeners.
I think that's great. And I hope you guys are resilient enough to come back and hear the second half of this um, very in-depth craft law discussion. And again, I encourage you to go out and find Lady Sheba's The Law, Lady Galadriel's The New Book of the Law, and join our Discord, and you can read the code in its entirety as well. That's Urban Unwitches podcast. And you can also reach us on urbanunwitches@gmail.com. That's unwitches with an S. If you have any questions or if you don't want to get Discord and you want me to send you a copy of these, I will be happy to do that as well. I always sign off with have a magical day, but Kyler, how are you signing off today?
Be the change and the blessing you wish to see in this world. Blessed be.
And blessed be, so mote it be. Thank you for listening to Urban Unwitches. Please reach co-host Kyler Petrie and Rev Dia at urbanunwitches@gmail.com. That's urbanunwitches@gmail.com to suggest topics for shows or comment on past episodes. Please join our Discord channel, Urban Unwitches Podcast. Follow us on TikTok at Urban Unwitches. Follow us on YouTube at Urban Unwitches to watch all episodes. And listen to all our past podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. Rev Dia is a witch for hire as an officiant, life coach, astrologer, geomancer, and medium, and can be reached at www.revdia.net. See you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Circle Podcast, presented by Circle Sanctuary, and produced for all who follow nature-centered paths. Join us throughout the week for various programming connecting with the community around the world. Please don't forget to watch for updates on the Circle Sanctuary website at www.circlesanctuary.org. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook/Circle Podcasts. We can also be found on your favorite podcast hosting sites, such as iTunes, Spotify, and others. Until next time, many blessings.